Hello YouTube, and welcome back to my little side project of doing Halloween themed readings. Our next story is The Actor, so why don't we get right to it. The Actor. When was the last time you went to the theater? The last time I went was the year 2003 on Halloween night. Yeah, I know, very cliche. I'm an actor in training, and I had realized that I hadn't been to a theater to see a proper play. The only ones I had ever been to were the ones that I had to see in my college, or if I was in them. The play was called Don't Watch and was about a retired puppeteer. But that's all I really remember about the story, to be honest. It was a Halloween special, so I figured it'd be horror genre. My friend and I got there early to grab the best seats as I was overly excited about my first theater experience as an audience member. And of course I wanted one of the good seats. We took our seats in the front row. There was a blank piece of paper on my seat, but I just took it off and sat there. We waited a good 15 minutes until the rest of the guests had started to arrive. A slow piano tune started to play as the audience took their seats. As everyone was seated, a loud scuffling sound came from the speakers, as if someone was messing around with a microphone. The announcer started to speak with a creepy tone in his voice. It kind of sent chills down my spine. Make sure all mobile devices are turned off, and please, no camera or recordings during your performance for copyright purposes, and may put off the actor. Sit back and enjoy the show. I noticed something which he had said in his announcement. May put off the actor, he said, suggesting this would be a one-man show. It was looking that way. The piano music stopped playing and the curtain lifted. There stood a pale man wearing a brown suit with a faded blue and white striped loose tie. Circus music began to play and he lifted up a doll-like puppet and started playing with it. I looked at my friends seated on either side of me to confirm they were just as perplexed as I was. I found they were all staring at the man in awe. He began to pace backwards and forward, from left to right of the stage whilst playing with the puppet. The man began to cry and weep. I felt a bit uneasy watching it, but I was very intrigued. The man stopped in the middle of the stage after 5 minutes of repeating the pacing and weeping. He dropped the puppet on the floor and walked backstage. He returned immediately with a tall floor mirror and placed it in the middle of the stage, leaning against the backdrop. It was tilted up towards the back of the room. As I squinted to see the mirror, something was strange. I couldn't see the reflection of the back wall. I could just see the stage, as if the image in the mirror is what the audience could see. I was quite impressed. They really made the effects look convincing. At least, I hoped they were effects. The man picked up his puppet and began to play with it again, but this time he stood in front of the mirror and started to weep more loudly. The music changed suddenly back to the original piano tune, which had played for a short while before the show began. I shuddered as a wave of uneasiness washed over me. I scanned the audience and saw that the actor had captivated everyone in the room apart from myself. My attention was on my surroundings. I was actually afraid that someone was going to jump out from behind because of the fact this man was drawing people's attention to the front of the stage. The man stood in front of the mirror and wept whilst playing with his puppet for a good 10 minutes, and I started to wonder if this was the whole play, but no one else seemed to be responding to it. I was getting a little bit bored, but definitely frightened. I whispered to my friends, "I think I just want to leave." But nobody was paying attention. I got a little bit frustrated and impatient, so I stood up and was about to get ready to leave. But as I stood up, every audience member turned their heads and stared at me. Even the man on stage turned his head, not his body, but only his head, and looked at me. I felt more uneasy and was unable to stand, so I slowly took my seat again, and all heads turned back to the attention of the actor. The man on the stage turned back to the mirror and started his repetitive movements. I looked behind me to find the exit so I could quickly leave without a fuss. I had my route ready, but as I turned back to the stage, the actor was gone, so had the backdrop, which was weird because the mirror was still there on stage, standing on its own, but this time it was tilting down. Funny enough, it was facing me, and I could see my reflection. I was so scared at this point that I was unable to move. I wanted to run to the exit so badly, but my body just didn't seem to want to budge. I stared into the mirror and something weird happened. I saw the actor in the reflection, then he disappeared. I scrunched up my eyes and opened them wide again to see myself staring towards the audience as if I was standing on the stage. I looked behind me and it was pitch black. I looked ahead of me again and it was like I was looking into the mirror that was on the stage. But I was in it. I was in the mirror looking out to the audience. I was terrified. As I stared towards them, I saw myself sitting in the audience, just looking up at the stage in awe, just like I saw everyone else when I was sitting in the audience. Then, a shadow started to appear. And it was him, the actor. He stood in front of the mirror and started playing with his puppet and weeping again. Just like before. He looked straight into my eyes, and I fainted. I would hate to end the story on, it was all just a dream, but I did wake up in my bed. I looked at the calendar and it read 31 October 2003. And I just froze. There was something written on the date, an event. I thought, that has to be the play I had seen called Don't Watch. Of course, it did say that, but something wasn't right. I checked my diary, and the day before had said dress rehearsal. Nothing seemed to make sense. I hadn't had any plays recently. It was the holidays. I started to get texts saying, break a leg, good luck, and can't wait to see the show. I felt sick. I drove to the theater and walked into the room where the play was. The stage was exactly as I last saw it. No backdrop, the mirror standing on its own. I walked down the front row and there was the blank piece of paper on my seat. Although it wasn't blank. I turned it over and it said, reserved for the actor. Alright, it's a mix between interesting and dull in my mind. I mean, interesting because they took the seat where the piece of paper had actually had reserved for the actor. He became the actor, essentially. Alright, but so what? I suppose everyone else saw an actually competent puppeteer, which is why they were all in awe, hypnotized. But the person on stage, who was simply weeping and fiddling with a doll, was not a competent retired puppeteer at all. They were the previous person who sat in that reserved for the actor spot, weeping because they can't escape their newfound position of being a very shitty puppeteer, and mayhaps being stuck in a Groundhog's Day scenario of always waking up on Halloween to perform this show until someone else takes the seat, takes over the burden of being the actor, I believe is what's going on here. And while that's fine and all, it still kind of feels meh to me. I don't know. Obviously, the puppeteer is a puppet now, but considering all they're doing is just walking around on stage, poorly playing with a puppet, while, yeah, stuck performing this over and over again would make anyone cry. That's all that's really happening. And if they were more being puppeted to do more grotesque and horrifying things, I feel like I would be more captivated almost. I feel like there would just be more to it. But that kind of existence is bad enough, I suppose, so maybe I should just shut up. But, of course, let me know what you thought in the comments. And I will be back next year with some more Halloween-themed creepypastas. But it is bye-bye for now. Bye.